CEO Live Talks.
I am Dr. Swanee Jett, and I have a passion for public health for over 30 years. Now, I'm in a position to affect change, and these are the critical conversations about health in our community with the people who can help me make those changes. Good afternoon. Welcome to CEO Live Talks. I'm your host, Dr. Swanee Jett, and today I'm invited to the show my good friend, Miss Cynthia Knapek. Hello.
Oh, so good to be here.
Yeah, welcome. So we're in the heart of Derby season. We
are.
getting close. I'm starting
Civic
off with
pride is big right
That's
now.
right. I got my Derby socks on. A lot of volunteerism going on. So before I get started, customarily on my show, right?
Okay.
We got to talk a little bit about you.
All right.
Besides all the wonderful things you're doing, but just your upbringing, where you from, all that good stuff.
Okay. I am a Louisville native. Grew up here. I have a big family. My mom is one of 9 kids. My dad is one of 4. Almost everyone stayed here.
Wow. Wow.
So like when we gather and we have, Christmas at Mom's house, there's almost 70 people there for Christmas.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just...
So when Mom had 9 kids, she was one of 9. How many do you have?
I'm one of 6 kids.
Okay.
Yeah, I am one of 6 kids.
All right.
So even when it's just like we'll be together this weekend, and so even when it's just, my small little immediate family.
Right.
I mean, there's still like, almost 20 of us.
And what number are you?
I
out of
am,
6?
you're going to be surprised by this, I am the oldest.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I think I kind of rolled out of bed with the, put me in charge of people.
Right. So your mother and father had to sort of harness that and tell you the oldest.
Yes.
So you got to protect all the younger ones.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 years between each one of us. So there's almost 20 years difference between me and my youngest sister.
So when you were 20, you had a baby sister coming.
That's right.
And so did you immediately jump in and want to change diapers?
No, I can
Okay.
assure you I did not. In fact, I was in college, right?
Okay.
So I really just wanted to roll around and have fun.
Right.
I do remember actually I was in a sorority in college, living my best life.
Right.
And rush week, my mom came down to help because moms do those things, right? My mom was pregnant.
Oh, wow.
And all my sorority sisters was like, your mom is pregnant.
Wow.
I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, my baby sister just got married a few years ago. So.
That is interesting. And I know your parents were looking at you, your friends were looking at you like, really? Really? So did you feel like you had to defend it?
I'll tell you the only time I felt like I needed to defend it is that I was chief babysitter in charge of all the extracurricular activities. So a lot of times there were opportunities where my friends were going to do a thing, but I needed to be on call for helping out. But yeah.
Yeah, that's the, so you stand in Louisville, that was a disadvantage. See, I left.
Okay.
So I was the oldest.
Yeah.
So I had one brother younger and a sister 7 years younger. So
Okay.
I could have foreseen me helping her and yeah. So I was gone. So I come home during the summers and then I was involved. And at least I did that for the first 2 summers. The junior, I stayed at college.
Okay.
Right. So I returned for the holidays. So you had to get adjusted, So what was instilled in you by being the oldest? Because you sort of had a command. Right. So what did your parents instill in you?
Yeah, I do think there's some truth to birth order and what it says about us.
It is.
I also think so. For me, actually, I got a blend of a lot of things from my parents and my family. because my mom was one of 9 kids, my youngest uncle is 3 years older than I am.
Okay.
And I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, right? And so I got to be almost the youngest
Right.
of that group. And so I kind of got a little sense of what it is to have other people look out for you and take care of you, because
Okay.
my aunts and uncles were fabulous at
Okay.
that, right?
Okay.
So when I was little, I was learning that firsthand. And I do think that sense of, your job in life is to look out for other people is certainly something that I think, an oldest child has, and I learned that from my parents. I also think you learn, it's a blend of both families, right? So you get a little bit of your mom and you get a little bit of your dad. I think I got a really good appreciation for harmony and how we pull people together from my mom. And my mom's a fabulous entertainer. I mentioned, we have family gatherings at her house.
Right.
All of the details are important to her.
Okay.
And so I got that from her. My dad is a very practical kind of person, right? He is, how do we raise a family to have fabulous experience on with a 50-cent paycheck, right? And he built and grew. He went to law school, but when I was young, he was in school.
Okay.
Right. So he built and grew, and you figure out how to make good life choices. One of the things my dad always talks about is the value of experiences and how you spend your money on things that give you that.
You could buy things, but the experience is something different. Like I shop a lot, so I have to shop like, let me go experience this.
Yeah.
So holidays, don't give me a gift. Let me have an
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
Right? Something that give you
Get me a memory.
Give me a memory.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it. So, the interesting thing, your father had a plan for the future because he was in school while you were young. And so I sort of did the same thing in prepping my kids. I was like, I'm going to go to school, but I'm looking long term.
Yeah.
So that was good. Were you a daddy's girl?
Yeah. So,
Or was you up under your mother all the time?
I think I spent time with my grandparents. I spent time with my mom a lot. Yeah.
But I figured you'd be a daddy's girl.
No, so because my dad was trying to put himself through school and work, right? He was a shoe salesman at Bacon's department store. For those that are like longtime residents, you'll remember that,
I
right?
remember Bacon's.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So I spent a lot of time with my mom, but also my mom was working too.
Okay.
And so I spent a lot of time with my grandparents and got a little bit of my dad's mom was Southern, and there's still words that people say that
Great hospitality.
that remind me. I'm like, oh, that sounds just like.
That sounds just
There's a scene in Forrest Gump, right, where he's sitting next to the woman on the park bench,
And we start talking about chocolates.
Yeah, but also, and she says, "Well, that's lovely."
Right.
Right, and every time I see that scene, I'm like, "Yep, that's my grandmother."
That's my grandmother. So where did you grow up at? What part of Louisville?
I grew up in Seneca Park.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up in Seneca Park.
Right. Seneca Park has changed now a little bit.
Yeah.
It's improved a little bit.
Yeah, I think our parks are one of our just best assets.
Yes,
Probably,
it is.
maybe that came by osmosis, right, and growing up in one of our parks. But I love when we invest in parks. I just think it's like it's the unsung thing about Louisville. When people ask me, what are the fabulous things about living in Louisville, I'm almost always say, parks.
You sound like Brooke Purdy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, on that, she and I are agreed on that.
Yes. I sit on the board for him, so
Okay.
I believe in the parks. It's a safe place, and so I pay attention. There's a lot of parks around Louisville that need some rehab.
Yes,
but
we suffer from a little deferred maintenance.
Yes.
Yeah, and so if I had a vote, and I would say let's put some attention back into our parks.
Tune in to CEO Live Talks with Dr. Swanee Jett every Saturday at noon on Wave 3. In this thought-provoking series, we bring you conversations with influential leaders, visionaries, and changemakers who are making a difference in their communities and beyond. Don't miss an episode. Mark your calendar for Saturdays at noon on Wave 3 to watch CEO Live Talks with Dr. Swanee Jet. Together, we can shape a brighter, healthier future for all.
My name is Dr. Stephanie Jacobs, and I am your Chief of Clinical Operations. I have been a nurse for 26 years. I have been in leadership for 18 years, and I absolutely love what I do. Park Duval is the employer of choice for me because I love the community, I love what we do, and I love the ability to be able to provide the amazing services that we do for our patients.
So, I know you went to Assumption High School.
I did. Go Rockets.
What's some of the lessons you learned by going there?
Yeah.
Because it's a very rich school.
It is. And I am a huge fan. I've served on the board of the Catholic Education Foundation. One of the reasons why I've served on that board is because I benefited so greatly from that form of education. And so I'm an advocate of all of our Catholic schools. I'm also a big advocate for our public school system. But for me specifically, I loved what I got from that experience at Assumption. It was the right choice for me because I think Assumption does a fabulous job of full person.
Okay.
Yes, grades are important, but they're only one dimension of who you are.
Correct. Correct.
And Assumption really, really recognized that, and I think they still do. I think that is still a focus of that education is you can be excellent in many different ways.
Right. So it's more of a holistic approach.
Yes.
Did it teach you a little bit about civic service?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I part baked into the high school experience is ACTS, a Christian through service, right? And so we actually took class time to go out, and I still, I have vivid memories. I can tell you exactly, where I was, how I served. Our office at Leadership Louisville is right across from the Muhammad Ali Center, right? So service to others is the
big.
rent you pay for your room here on earth.
It's big.
Yeah.
So what did you study? Because from there you went to University of Louisville. What did you study there?
My undergraduate degree is in communication, public relations. Also, I have a minor in theater.
So what were you thinking?
I really like messaging.
Okay.
I like how do we use our voice? How do we say the thing that needs to be said in a way that others will hear you?
Okay.
Communication and public relations was an interesting study in that. When I was there, I actually got super involved in student government, right? And all the things. I am a joiner by nature. If you send around a sign-up sheet, I'm like, oh yeah, count me in. I want to be part of that. So I got involved in all things student life. I love education. I love universities. I love watching aha moments.
Yeah, you're a lifelong learner.
I
I'm
am.
starting to see that.
Yeah. Well, and so that's I decided why just stop at a undergraduate degree? So I actually went right from that to getting a master's.
Okay.
And my master's is in higher education administration.
So you had a goal. What was the goal when you decided that?
Well, I thought I was going to be, in fact, I just went to the Grawemeyer Awards at the University of Louisville.
Okay.
I sat next to that night the Dean of Students, Dr. Mike Mardis.
Okay.
I sat next to Assistant Provost. And actually, I was sitting in between. That was my goal. I thought I was going to be the Dean of Students. I thought I was going to be a Provost. I graduated, and it turns out that bankers make more money. So, as a 20-year-old, 20-something years old, I looked at my opportunities, and I actually went to work for Fifth Third Bank. Banks used to have these great management training programs.
Yes, they did.
Right, where they would move you around, and so you got to see, commercial lending, and you got to see retail banking, and you got to see all the different departments. I really wish we still did those kind of
Yeah,
programs.
they don't do that no more.
Yeah, and I wish students had more internship opportunities, because seeing how all of those things worked was a tremendous foundation for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, what was your first role?
Well,
Because that program was what, a year?
yeah,
To go
loosely.
because the
Yeah.
hospitals do it. It's like a fellowship, but it's 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then you go to every department.
So since the time I was 15, I had a job working in the mall St. Matthews.
Okay.
Okay, I worked at the fashion shop.
I
worked
remember
at
the fashion shop, yeah.
Right. And then I graduated and got my fancy job
Right.
working for the bank. And when I left their management training program, I ended up being the branch manager for the Mall St. Matthews branch. So they sent me right back to the mall.
Right back to the mall. Right back shopping now.
That's right.
In Lynn Hills.
Yeah.
So how long did you do that?
I did that for about 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did something change?
While I was there, I had the opportunity to meet County Judge Executive Rebecca Jackson.
I remember her.
Okay.
I worked for her.
Yeah, and Judge Jackson was interested in brain drain. She was particularly interested in how do we keep our young professionals in this community. So she had accumulated a whole bunch of business cards from young professionals that she met on the campaign trail.
Okay.
And she assembled us there around this, fancy conference table and asked us the question, what would keep you here?
That's always the good question. And I'm assuming that's how y'all you started YPOW.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we kept having this conversation, and being engaged in YPOW, one of the things that we talked about is service to the community is actually one of the things that anchors you here. It makes you feel connected. It's basically your ownership pass, right? You move from being a renter to an owner when you serve.
Right.
And I got engaged in that, and I really just felt like, banking gave me fabulous experience, and they made me a manager. I was managing a team of like 12 other people when I was 20 years old, but it was not fulfilling my purpose.
It fulfills your pocket, though.
It did. And so in being engaged in that work in the creation of YPOW is when I also was like, okay, I think I need something that is more purpose-driven work.
Okay.
And so I went to work for the Kentucky Organ Donor affiliates from there.
Yeah, so I remember coming to a few YPOW events.
Yeah.
So I moved here in '95. So
Okay. Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
remember
that was...
coming, and probably was '97, '98. I started working for the health department. So my boss at that time, I can't even remember her name, was working for Rebecca Jackson. So that's how I remember. And the county and city hadn't merged yet.
No, they had
So
not. Yeah.
they had not merged yet, so we didn't exactly have a mayor.
No. Well, yeah, Dave Armstrong.
Dave Armstrong.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. That's a while ago.
Yeah. And
So-
YPOW started with 20 people sitting around a table, and then 200 people, and then 500 people, and now 1,000 people.
And it was a good ground for, I guess, training the new leadership, because the conversation then was, once you graduate from college, Louisville was not the place to be if you were young.
Right. It's a great place to raise a family.
Great place to raise a family.
Yeah, but not always
Right.
the cool zone.
So,
20.
because I remember, because I was thinking about leaving, but then I had kids, so I decided to stay. So I'm curious, what did y'all accomplish? Because YPOW is still around. 25 years later, 27, something like that, it's still around.
It is.
So what did y'all accomplish?
I think one of the fabulous things about what YPOW does is it makes connection exponentially easier. I think Louisville gets an interesting report card on, is it easy to meet people here? My observation is that people who move here and have the raise their hand, like put me in, coach.
Right.
I want to meet people.
Right.
Their report card is, this was great.
Okay.
I find my people. If you are not quite able to do that for yourself, then Louisville can be tough. YPAL makes it easier.
Okay.
And same thing with Leadership Louisville. It's one of the things I love about the Leadership Louisville Center is it creates opportunity for social connection.
It does.
Right?
It does.
And to actually make friends.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Sierra Clark, and I'm the Chronic Disease Manager at Park Duval Community Health Center. Ever since I started at Park Duval over 9 years ago, I have been committed to helping patients live healthier lifestyles. I am currently serving patients in the Chronic Care Management Program, or CCM program. My team and I help patients manage their chronic conditions such as obesity, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. In this CCM program, you will receive several benefits to help you manage your health. We offer monthly telephone calls to check in with your progress and to assist you with any concerns, assistance with scheduling your healthcare appointments, and assistance with filling your prescriptions in a timely and convenient manner. We also offer many resources to help you with the barriers you may face with eating healthy, being physically active, or monitoring your conditions at home. For more information, visit us online at pdchc.org or visit one of our health centers.
You know, you bring up something interesting. So when I worked for Mayor Aberson, and I know you had a stint,
Oh, yeah.
I created the Office of Men's Health,
Okay. Yes.
right? Because what I recognized, and it was Dr. Trotman's thought process, we focus on women, and we had an Office of Women's Health
Yeah.
at the local level and at the state level. But there is nothing for men.
Yeah.
And especially now in society, and you probably noticed for African American men.
Yeah.
And so when I began to do statistics, we were dying on average at age of 56.
Yeah.
And it was bad. Now we are at the bottom of the totem pole in terms of education, graduate from college, etc. Have you thought about developing some type of program for African American men or for men?
I
Or
would love
have
to.
that focus?
Yeah. So I in the category of two things can be true at the same time.
Right.
One of the things, the asset of Leadership Louisville is the social fabric of our community and bringing all kinds of different people together in the same room. And that's
Right.
an important thing that we do.
Right.
But I also am a big believer in kind of an affinity group model.
Okay.
That when we put similar people together, I think it's an accelerator. I
Okay,
think it
right.
helps us get to like, what can we do specifically for that group? And I am deeply interested in that kind of model.
Okay.
And also, I run a small nonprofit. So someday, when I win the lottery and we get big grant money,
Right.
I would absolutely be interested in doing those kinds of things.
Right.
Right now, we kind of do our growth based on like, here's one thing and here's one thing.
And it probably has a lot to do with, because you can write grants for certain things, but it puts restrictions. But it's great when somebody donates
Yes.
and help you build infrastructure.
Yes, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
And, you know, looking at the generosity of our community is also something I'm interested in. How do we do as a community? I think it's an area of our community health that that we could do a little better on.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the things that Leadership Louisville can dial up in our programs is looking at community generosity and helping everyone understand. Certainly, it is lovely when we get very large investors from our foundation community.
Right.
And our foundation community is great about doing those kinds of things. But we also need a trickle down where
Correct.
we need checks of $100 here, there, and everywhere to come in. And yeah, that's one of the significant ways that Leadership Louisville expands our funding is when we have donors.
So let's go back to when you worked at Kentucky Organ Donor, because you have to be a special type of person to do that kind of work, right? What what are some of the lessons that you learned,
Yeah.
and what gave you the passion to go in that direction?
I will tell you, I have been job blessed. I've had some really amazing jobs. I mean, even at the bank, I learned management experience early. Worked for Mayor Abramson. The Kentucky Organ Donor Affiliates was eye-opening, life-changing, shaped me in so many ways. I knew I wanted the job when it was posted. I actively campaigned. I probably just wore them down. They probably gave me the job because they were like, if we give you the job, will you just shut up? But it was one of those things that I did. Pride aside, I was like, I want this job. I'm gonna go all in for how do I campaign to get it. Why I wanted the job ended up being different than what I took from the job that was most meaningful and important. Why I wanted the job is because I think you can see the transformation that happens in a transplant recipient, right? There is joy there. This is a person who might not live through the end of the week, and through miracle of I'm going to say miracle of science, but it's actually a much bigger miracle than that.
Right.
They get a completely renewed lease on life. And that's why I wanted it, is I saw that. And I thought, oh, how fabulous would it be to talk about that? But in my role, I was doing public relations to try and get more people interested in saying yes.
Right.
Well, the thing about saying yes is it happens to families at absolutely the worst time in their family's history, right? It is an incredibly tragic moment. In order to be an organ donor, you were healthy yesterday, and something entirely unexpected has happened to you, and your family has to make a choice for you. And I thought that was going to be the really difficult thing, but it actually ended up being the piece of the puzzle that I loved most. And the reason why is because, one, it's an incredible example of how unselfish we can be in a time of incredible tragedy, that we can make this decision to benefit someone else. But what I didn't see coming is that the families who have experienced this tragedy, what they will say a year after making this donation, 10 years after making this donation, is because they said yes, it is sometimes the only reason they are still standing. Because they have this miracle to share that their loved one was able to do, it is the thing that allows them to celebrate. I did not see that coming, and it is the reason why I was so excited and so passionately enthusiastically talking to people about the importance of making that decision. And when you talk about servant leadership and unselfish decisions, I think that the grounding in that was transformational for me.